This week on the Four Rivers Ag Report, I thought David was a rock thrower, not a Bowman. Also, this may be the wettest drought I've ever experienced. And I think it may be way too late to shut the barn door now. That and much more on the Four Rivers Ag Report. Welcome to the Four Rivers Ag Report. I'm Fred Peralta. Happy first day of spring! At least according to the Peralta family calendar. March 1st is a very special day because it's my wife's birthday. She's a beautiful and wise 29. And accordingly, by proclamation, it's the first day of spring because we're all tired of winter. There's a reason why they made February the shortest month. I think winter ought to be the shortest season. Well, last week we talked to Dave Smith about what you guys are planning and all that. And off camera, we started talking about the case now in front of the Supreme Court, Bowman versus Monsanto. Now, most of you are probably familiar with it, but those of you who aren't, an Indiana soybean farmer bought some unmarked soybeans, usually used for animal feed, planted them, and raised a crop. Now, Monsanto caught wind of this and sued him because after genetic testing confirmed it, the seeds were second-generation versions of their patented seeds. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments on what could be a landmark intellectual property case involving patented seeds. Todd Gleason sewed some questions to a legal expert and has a report on what potential implications sprung up.
Although it may be several months until the Supreme Court issues its decision, a copy of the transcript from the oral argument is available, as well as links to the written briefs filed by parties and other groups with an interest in the case. Groups filing briefs in advance of the oral argument in support of Bowman, the farmer, included the Center for Food Safety, the National Farmers Union, and the American Antitrust Institute, along with the Public Patent Foundation, among others. Groups filing briefs in support of Monsanto included the American Soybean Association, the Illinois Soybean Association, the Software Alliance, and Pioneer Hybrid International, Incorporated. The case pits the interest of a patent holder, Monsanto, against those of a product user, Indiana farmer Vernon Bowman. Essentially, it asks the question, when does patent protection on a self-replicating process run out?
It's, of course, about agriculture and a multi-million, billion-dollar seed industry. But it also has a lot of policy implications moving beyond agriculture. Think about software or vaccines. Or other things that are easily replicated or even self-replicating, like vaccines or a live virus that replicates. How does the patent system treat those? And so agriculture is, in essence, a test case going forward to see how the patent system will adopt or adjust to these other technologies.
The court heard the oral argument but will not make a decision on it until later this year. The decision could have a dramatic impact or not at all, says Indris.
It, of course, will depend on which side wins. If Bowman, the farmer, wins, it'll really disrupt how Monsanto approaches the marketing of its patented technologies. But not just Monsanto, it'll be the entire seed industry will have to adjust to how do you deal with third-generation seeds. If he does not win, in my opinion, it'll pretty much be business as usual in that people assume, for the most part, that you can't save patented technologies.
Farmers have known for more than a decade that it is not okay to save back patented seeds to plant for the next crop. The question at hand is whether or not there is a point prior to the expiration of the patent that the self-replicated copies of the original seeds, the harvest, might lose that patent protection. The U.S. Supreme Court will rule later this year. For University of Illinois Extension, I'm Todd Gleason.
Now, one of the organizations that filed briefs in this case was the American Soybean Association. On the phone with me right now is Ron Kindred of Atlanta, Illinois, in Logan County. And Ron is a board member of the American Soybean Association, representing Illinois. Now, Ron, why did the American Soybean Association think it was important to submit a brief in this case?
Well, I don't know if everybody is aware, but, these trait providers like Monsanto, Pioneer, Syngenta, they are all investing a significant amount of money in research to improve the traits and the yield and the disease resistance, that sort of thing, in the soybeans that we are planting today. We are seeing the benefits of that in increased yields and improved consistency in our yields year in, year out. And we submitted the brief because we want to protect those patent rights that these trait protect them, then they will stop putting money into research into soybeans. So we're trying to protect the money that is being put into our research and development of new traits, new higher yielding varieties, and we think that this lawsuit, if it was ruled against Monsanto, could possibly stifle all of that investment into our industry.
Now, was the decision to submit a brief to the court an administrative decision, or was it voted on by the board?
It was no, it was a board decision. We went through the usual process on that. The executive committee made a recommendation to the board, and the board voted on it and agreed that it was something that we should do.
If this case were to be decided in favor of Bowman, what implications do you see down the line?
Well, when you get to talking patent rights, that can, it could snowball and go into other parts of agriculture, and we just think that it's important that intellectual property rights, patent rights, are protected. I think, if you develop something and you're getting paid for your expertise and your innovation in developing something as an individual, you would want that protected so you could, reap the rewards of that for a certain length of time. And I think that's basically what this is all about, is protecting those rights, because they do have a value, and I think it's important that they have a value, because if they don't, then why would people even try to innovate anything? And I think that's the bottom line here. We're wanting to continue to grow the soybean industry. We've got tremendous demand globally for soy. And to meet that demand, we are going to have to continue to become more efficient in our operations by improving yield. We're going to have to grow more with less. So we are not going to be able to do that if we stop innovation.
Thank you, Ron. Ron Kindred, board member of the American Soybean Association.
Thank you very much.
Monica is here now with news about the sequester, the Farm Bill, and a horse who's always first out of the gate. Monica?
Thanks, Fred. I'm Monica Becker. Sequester or not, what's going on? By the time this program airs, we'll know if Washington will act to avoid the automatic, across-the-board spending cuts known as the sequester. And across the board means that every program is going to see cuts evenly split between defense spending and discretionary domestic spending, which exempts most spending on entitlements like Social Security and Medicaid. The blog Farm Policy reports that the sequester can be avoided, but only if Congress passes another budget deal that would achieve at least $1.2 trillion in deficit reduction. Both Democrats and Republicans have offered proposals to do so, but there still isn't much progress on a deal. Sounds familiar? Republicans don't want to raise taxes to generate revenue, while Democrats are reluctant to make dramatic changes to entitlement programs to achieve savings. Farm Policy goes on to report that several bills to avoid the cuts or give the president authority to manage the cuts are being discussed in Congress. While Congress is talking, various agencies are working out what to do if cuts are ordered. The USDA is talking about using rolling furloughs for meat inspectors rather than idling the entire workforce at once. Other programs supervised by the USDA may see no new enrollees being allowed into programs rather than services being denied those already planning on a particular service. We will either have more particulars next week as to how the USDA is dealing with the sequester, or we'll be asking, what sequester? The other news out of Capitol Hill is that we might actually see a farm bill this year. Key phrase, might. Both the House and Senate Ag Committees are meeting and working through to pass a bill before the August deadline. The Senate's bill appears to be similar to last year's, with some additional tweaking for budgetary reasons, and they hope to have their bill voted on by March. And the House? Farm Week reports that the House Ag Committee has plans to assemble its farm bill in April. In an interview with Sherry Bustos, the new representative from East Moline, Democrats on the committee are dealing directly with Speaker Boehner to get a bill out of committee and voted on by the full House. Maybe this time. After a wet, snowy, rainy week, you'd expect this, but soil moisture has improved all over the state. Statewide, topsoil comes in at 3% very short, 18% short, 75% adequate, and 4% surplus. In our area, topsoil comes in at 3% short, 91% adequate, and 6% surplus. Subsoil is also improving, but still has a way to go. Statewide, we're seeing 15% very short, 43% short, and 42% adequate. And in the East-Southeast District, we're seeing 2% very short, 25% short, 72% adequate, and a drop from last week to 1% surplus. The Purdue Extension reports that the Indiana State Climate Office is forecasting an Indian spring, or maybe in this case, an Indiana spring. A warmer and wetter spring is predicted, and then potential for a drier growing period. Warmer and wetter than what? Precipitation from now until May will be mostly in the form of rain, and the forecast calls for 2.5 inches above normal. Last year, during the same period, Indiana was almost 5 inches below normal precipitation. Temperatures are projected to average about 2 degrees above normal, much more moderate than the 8 degrees above normal that the state saw in 2012. The USDA Risk Management Agency announced the estimate payouts for county-based group risk income plan with harvest price option policies, also known as GRIP-HR. Most counties will have GRIP-HR payments for corn, with many counties having larger payments. Fewer counties had GRIP-HR payments for soybeans. It appears that counties in our area could benefit from participating in the GRIP program, and we hope to have Gary Schneike on next week to clarify the program's options for us. And finally, we might have an answer to the age-old question, who let the horse out of the barn? In this case, the horse did. Meet Mariska, aka the Houdini horse. Mariska does not like to be fenced in, and she is smart enough to do something about it. Her owners noticed at a young age Mariska would play with things in her mouth, obviously planning her great escape even at an early age. She has now mastered every latch in her barn, 4 different types, and has figured out how to open up the various doors. Her goals? Grain, green grass, and freedom. Oh, and some cold snacks. Every morning at her Midland, Michigan farm, Mariska lets herself out and then sets about freeing her fellow inmates. The one stall she passes without opening, that's her mother's, because who would want your mom around when you're going out for a joyride? To be free or not to be free? Ah, that's the equestrian. Sorry about that. I'm Monica Becker. Thanks for watching.
Last week's storm left a mess on the roads, but a blessing in the fields, or at least that's what many farmers thought. Lauren Yurkovich has more.
Snow is good. I mean, because the snow, it's not like a rain. A rain comes down and washes off. The snow melts slowly. It goes in the ground.
Central Illinois farmers like Kevin Woods see the snowstorm as a potential escape from the 2012 drought's lasting effects. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, on August 28, 2012, all of central Illinois was under an extreme drought.
It was so dry. You have tiles in your fields, and it was so dry that when we would fix a tile, it wouldn't even be muddy around the tile. And that's 3 foot in the ground.
As of February 19th, the U.S. Drought Monitor showed East Central Illinois was back to normal conditions. And 2 days later, on February 21st, much of the viewing area was blanketed with snow. Wood says while the snow helped, much more precipitation is needed to get back on track.
It needs to keep raining.
Even though farmers only make up less than 1% of the U.S. population, Wood says last year's drought affects everyone.
Directly related to the consumer, because it drove the prices up. As far as me selling my corn, I got more money out of it because there wasn't as much. Well, in turn, we also raised cattle. So we had to feed that high-priced corn to our cows. So in turn, that raises the price of the beef.
For the Four Rivers Ag Report, I'm Lauren Yurkovich.
Well, with me now is our own Cameron Craig. And Cameron, you recently wrote an essay that suggests that even with our current moisture levels, we may not be out of the woods yet. Is that right?
That is correct. And the reason why is because drought is one of those things that once you get into a drought, it's very difficult to get out of. Yes, you can get tons of rain and things like that, but if you're 10 inches behind or 12 inches behind or even 6 or 5 inches behind, what happens is you got to replenish that and to get back to normal and then get a surplus so that you could stay out of the drought situation long term.
Okay, well, our moisture levels in the ground, the topsoil is adequate to good.
That's right.
The subsoil is adequate.
Yes.
You know, isn't that enough?
No, because what happens is if you don't have a period of rain for 2 weeks and you have a high pressure, which brings the nice sunny weather that everyone loves, but what happens is with that sunshine, you increase the evaporation rate of the soil. And so then you're left without, moisture in the soil. So it's nice to have a surplus so that we can combat that higher evaporation rate when we do have no rain.
Is when we get rain as important as how much?
If we get way too much, what happens is we start to have runoff with the topsoil, and all the nutrients gets pushed out of the system. We want to have a nice subtle rain, even a drizzle that's long term for an extended period of time that will allow us to soak that moisture through the soil.
Now that's one of the reasons why, as Lauren reported earlier,
That's right.
the snow on the ground is a blessing.
Yes, because it takes a long time for it to melt. And then when it melts, it's just trickling through the topsoil.
Now, how big of an area are droughts regionalized, or does one area of the country affect the other?
It does. It depends on where the trough or the jet stream is placed. For example, right now we have a nice big swath from the Gulf of Mexico up to the Great Lakes region and then out to New England.
Okay.
And what that does, that's all normal. Okay, we're not plus, but it's normal conditions. Everything to the west of Illinois is exceptional drought still, and into the west, the Rockies, and then along the southeast corner, or the section of the southeast United States, is still suffering from a drought, not exceptional, but extreme drought situation.
Now, we've seen that because of the drought in Texas and in Montana and other places, Kansas, some farmland is being taken out of production. They just can't grow anything, and they're moving to cattle, which is only going to make it more popular for people to plant every square inch they can in other areas.
Right.
Is that necessarily, wall-to-wall corn, is that necessarily good for our total water resource?
Well, the thing is, we have to rethink how what crop is going to use the most water and how much, what crop will use this amount of water. So farmers have to think, okay, because there's a drought situation, when we do get subtle, frequent rains that are not going to bring us enough precipitation, what crop is going to do the best? And so I can get the most out of my money.
So what crop?
That's a good question. I just stick to the atmosphere and what happens at the surface. As far as the type of crop, we can leave that to another individual.
Okay, you guys, we got to find a crop guy to answer that question. But Cameron, so it seems to me like the drought just hit us hard and fast out of nowhere.
That's right.
And, it's going to take much longer to get out of this. But could we get? Are things setting up to be similar?
Well, it is possible. If we continue let's start with the end of the 2012. Here in Charleston, we were 5 to 6 inches behind for last year's situation. We need to make up that 5 inches. Now, January, we were plus 1 inch for precipitation. February, we're still kind of equal, but with this recent rain that we've had, it's helping out. So we're hoping that March will give us a little bit more rain to get us back to supply last year's deficit and get us more for this upcoming growing season.
Okay, so how far behind are we in the Coles County area?
In the Coles County area, we're still about 4 to 5 inches behind.
Okay.
Considered normal.
Okay. Monica just reported a story from the Indiana Climatological Survey that says that Indiana is planning on having a wetter spring than normal, 2.5 inches above normal. Okay. Say we get that 2.5 inches.
Right.
Would we still be 2 inches down?
Yes, we'd still be 2 inches down, so we need to make up for that deficit that was from last year.
Okay.
See, it's just because nature doesn't know that we began a new calendar year.
Okay.
So we have to make up for what happened in the fall and the summer. And so when we bring that precipitation back to normal, then we get into a surplus, then we're in good shape.
Okay, so how critical is it to start a growing season behind? As far as ground moisture.
Yeah, we have to have the moist ground to get those seeds going. Once that gets going, we have to have frequent rains. But the problem is that if we get like April of 2011, we got 6 inches over what was normal.
Right.
We can't do that. We cannot do that because then we lose the crops and we have to replant again.
Right. Right. So if we do in fact have a wetter, but not too wet spring, we want that once a week.
Yes,
once
a week rain. That's not going to be a downpour. We need to have an active jet stream that continues to push in precipitation events into our region. We don't want to be sitting in a persistent ridge of warm, dry air like last summer.
Now, last year we were in the, I forget which one, El Nino or La Nina?
We were coming out of a La Nina and subtly and inch by inch going into an El Nino.
What's that going to do to the jet stream?
Well, that's going to help make it more active.
Okay.
So it's going to bring things down to our area. Okay. So that's what we're looking for. As long as the Arctic Oscillation doesn't strengthen and hold that jet stream further up to Canada, we'll be in good shape. So, but compare now to last year, we're a bit cooler than we were last year, and a bit more precipitation than we were last year.
Yeah.
So we're setting up for a nice, let's hope that it continues this way.
I think everybody hopes it continues this way. Well, Cameron, thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you next week.
All right.
Hi, this is Jessica Killo with your Inside Extension. This week is Cumberland County's 4-H week. This week, Cumberland County 4-Hers will be participating in fun 4-H themed activities. The 4-Hers have decorated storefronts in Greenup, Toledo, and Teutopolis. Make sure to stop by and see them. If you want to be a part of Cumberland County 4-H, call the Cumberland Extension Office at 217-849-3931. Coles County 4-H will be hosting our annual Pork Chop Barbecue at the 4-H Center on Saturday, April 13th from 11:30 to 6:30. Tickets are on sale now, so come by and see us and enjoy a fantastic meal. New to our online Certified Crop Advisor training program is a module on crop residue and foliar disease. This module explores conventional and conservation tillage and how tillage affects diseases, soil crop residue, erosion, and foliar diseases. Visit our website to get more details and to sign up for the module. While on the website, check for additional modules. Our family life educator, Sherry Burcham, will lead a discussion on the important roles of grandparents and strategies to enhance the relationship between grandparents and grandchildren at the Shelby County Senior Center in Shelbyville. This is an HCE event, but the general public is welcome. For more information on this event, visit our website. And don't forget, we will be hosting the workshop Putting Small Acres to Work on March 16th from 8 a.m. till 1 p.m. at Sarah Bush Lincoln. If you're not sure what to do with your 5 to 20 acres, you'll want to attend this workshop. The general session will discuss energy alternatives for small acreage and will be presented at noon during lunch. Breakout sessions include maintaining a healthy pasture, small acreage and beekeeping, fencing for livestock, poultry and egg production, money does grow on trees in your woodland, and growing vegetables and selling through a CSA. Registration begins at 8 a.m. at the Education Center. If you have any questions, please contact Dave Shiley at the Arthur Extension Office at 217-543-3755. From U of I Extension serving Coles, Cumberland, Moultrie, Douglas, and Shelby counties, I'm Jessica Killow with your Inside Extension.
One of the things I always look forward to in spring is my lawn greening up. Unfortunately, it's always followed by yellow afterwards. My nemesis, the dandelion. But perhaps it won't be for long because a Dutch biotech firm believes that the lowly dandelion might have a little bounce in its future, like rubber. The dandelion roots contain latex, and while there is just a little bit in the flower's roots, we all know just how fast they multiply. And with global demand for natural rubber outstripping supply by 20% in 2020, we may be driving on a dandelion tire before you know it. And if dandelions become a cash crop, you need look no further than my front yard. And that's my dandelion wine. Work hard, be safe, and enjoy the beautiful sunsets. I'm Fred Peralta, and thanks for watching the Four Rivers Ag Report.